Candidates are feeling much better today because the first debate, they can check the box. It is over and done with.
Woo!
Right now, Donald Trump joins us on the phone. Good morning, Mr. Trump.
Good morning.
So how did you think it went last night?
I thought it went really well. I mean, I had some hostile questions, but that was okay. I thought it went really well. It was the debate of debates.
Who was the first person you went to after the debate and said, how do you think it went?
Well, my family came up, Ivanka, Melania, the whole family. And I thought that they came up like unbelievably well. They were just happy. They thought it was great.
You said that you got some hostile questions. That's the job of a moderator, is to ask hard questions. Do you feel that Lester Holt asked Hillary Clinton an equal number of hostile questions?
Well, he didn't ask her about the emails at all. He didn't ask her about her scandals. He didn't ask her about the Benghazi deal that she destroyed. He didn't ask her about a lot of things that she should have been asked about. I mean, there's no question about it.
Why do you think that is?
About her foundation. Why? I don't know. I mean, I didn't think he did a bad job, but I didn't, when you look at it, you watch the last four questions. He hit me on
boom, boom.
Bertha. He hit me on a housing deal from many years ago that I settled with
1973.
with no recourse and no guilt. He asked me about that. That's a beauty to be asked. 40-year-old lawsuit or older. I just hate to say it's older because then you'll know. Then Ainsley will say, "Wow, I didn't know Trump was that old." she'll be unimpressed. But
I did like how you responded to that, though, because when they throw those things at you, and you're being in the audience, I didn't know about that. And then when you explain it, then you're like, "Oh, okay, well that makes sense."
Yeah. So I explained it, but when you explain that, it's a no-win too.
Mm-hmm.
But they were leaving all of her little goodies out. They didn't ask her about much. I was asked about my tax returns, which I've told about 500 times. So it's but I think I really did well when we were asked normal questions. I think I did really well in answering those questions, but those questions are not answerable in a positive light.
So Donald, any person who wants to be great in anything, and I think it's pretty clear to even your greatest detractor, you want to be great, looks back and says, well, I wish I could have done this better or different. Looking back at the tape, seeing some clips, do you say to yourself, man, how did I miss that? Or I wish I would have said this differently. And if so, what is an example?
Well, when she hit me at the end with the women, I was going to hit her with her husband's women. And I decided I shouldn't do it because her daughter was in the room.
Is that what you mentioned? I had something I could bring up, but I didn't want to bring it up?
In front of Chelsea.
Having to do with her husband.
Many people thought that the
all of the women. Yeah, they sort of thought that was it. And I didn't feel comfortable doing it. I think I did the right thing. It's not worth a point. I didn't feel comfortable doing it with Chelsea in the room. I think Chelsea's a fine young lady. I didn't like doing it with Chelsea in the room.
Do you regret not bringing up the emails as much? You brought it up at one point.
Well, I brought them up pretty strong. I talked about them, and I talked about cleaning them. Don't forget, Lester should have brought up the emails. That should have been a question.
What about Benghazi and the Clinton Foundation?
Well, I would have liked to have done that, but the questions weren't, don't forget, you're asked a question as to progress or as to something. And it's hard to get off to Benghazi sometimes, the way the questions were framed. You start off at a totally the opposite of Benghazi. And so Benghazi can't get brought up. Right. But it was a very interesting evening. I thought it was good. I thought Lester was really good for the half because he was bringing up general and main subjects that were important. Things like the economy. And then in the end, they start bringing up 45-year-old lawsuits.
Donald, do you think he got the message from the Matt Lauer commander-in-chief forum from a couple of weeks ago where he didn't want that to happen to him, and so he went where Matt seemed to me to be fair and balanced? Lester leaned a little over into the left lane?
Yeah, totally. More than a little. And he leaned over to that lane. But I don't know. Every poll, I won Slate. I won Drudge. I got almost 90% of the vote in the poll. I won Time Magazine. I won CBS. I won every single poll other than CNN, and not many people are watching CNN. I'll tell you what, that place is a disaster. The people they have on those shows, they have third-rate talent as their announcers on that show.
Yeah, you didn't.
The moderators.
I was watching some of the post game. They were beating up on Cordo and Dasker.
MSNBC, believe it or not, which treats me better than CNN, which is actually hard to believe. But MSNBC is beating CNN.
Right.
So anyway, no. Other
Well,
than
we're beating them
CNN,
all.
the only poll I got that was where I lost was CNN, and that was a very Democratic poll. It was, they even say it was it's very sampled, high Democratic. No, I think that I think the result was very good. I thought it was very interesting. I know a lot of people wished it was much longer. I mean, and it did go fast. I will say, from my standpoint, an hour and a half sounds like a long time when it's two people. It went so fast, 20 minutes. It just kept going so fast, and I was impressed by that. That meant I enjoyed it, I guess.
Right. Okay, so let's move on to something they brought up your taxes, and you said, yeah, I'll release my taxes against what my lawyer's better judgment if you get me the 33,000 emails that you deleted and bleached off your server. Jennifer Palmieri, I saw her in the spin room, so I wanted to see if she would take that deal. Here's what she said.
He suggested that the reason why he hasn't released his taxes is because he hasn't paid any. He seemed proud of that fact. He said that made him smart. So I think
if it's not illegal.
He compounded. Our expectation is that he compounded a lot of problems for himself. He is the candidate. He has historically. Is historically challenged in disclosure. We haven't seen his tax returns. He still hasn't put out. He hasn't matched her on health records. He's not given the American public the most basic information that we expect.
Well, the question that you didn't hear that was
that's
edited
called
out.
spin.
She just chewed on it.
It's a
That's
spin
called
room.
spin. Because, it had nothing to do with that. I just said, hey, I will go against my lawyer's orders if you release your 33,000 deleted emails, which I'm sure she could get. But, they'd be very dangerous for her to get. But so I'm not giving much when I say that. What do you think the chances of my getting that deal? Do you think they're pretty small?
Yeah, probably.
She basically blew it off.
Unless Julian Assange releases them for
Yeah,
her.
that'd be interesting. Well,
Well,
he's supposedly out there. He is saying he's releasing something, which will be interesting. But
Yeah.
let's find out what he's going to release.
Going in, she was trying to get under your skin a couple of times. Did she?
No, not at all. I didn't see it that way. At the end, maybe, the very last question, when she brought up the person that became, I know that person. That person was a Miss Universe person, and she was the worst we ever had. The worst, the absolute worst. She was impossible. And she was a Miss Universe contestant and ultimately a winner who they had a tremendously difficult time with as Miss Universe.
Did not know that story.
Well, I didn't know it either.
what
She was the winner, and she gained a massive amount of weight, and it was a real problem. We had a real problem. Not only that, her attitude, and we had a real problem with her. So Hillary went back into the years, and she found this girl. This was many years ago, and found the girl and talked about her like she was Mother Teresa. And it wasn't quite that way, but that's okay. Hillary has to do what she has to do. I see what's happening in the polls. I guess you see I'm tied in Minnesota and winning in Colorado, and looks like we're going to be winning in Pennsylvania very soon. One thing I got out, I think really the best, was immigration, illegal immigration, the police, law and order, and maybe the thing I got out best is trade.
Trade and jobs.
Because trade and jobs. And those are basically the three things we're going to have to get out. And I got them out early and strong. And a lot of people think the poll numbers are going to go up because of that. And I hope you're impressed with the poll numbers, but a lot of people think the poll numbers are going up because of that.
Well, there are a lot of pundits out, on some of the channels they're talking about how she had the debate of her life. In the things I've read, and we all watched it, it didn't look like either one of you got a knockout punch.
No, I would say that. I would say, the polls are saying 60-40, 65-35. That's what the polls are saying.
Well, people were saying they just wanted you to stay on. Many Republicans were saying they wanted you to stay on message, and I think a lot of the Republicans that I was talking to last night said they were pleased with the way that you did that. Now going into the next debate, you've gotten your feet wet. This was the first time you've been on a one-on-one debate. She has lots of experience in this, and you're coming out of this, and the polls are indicating that you did very well.
Not bad for a first time,
exactly.
one-on-one.
So going into the next debate, what are you going to do differently? Anything that you'd like to do differently?
Well, I may hit her harder in certain ways. I really eased up because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But so I may hit her harder in certain ways. I think that I don't know if it's the same forum, if it's a similar forum. I had a problem with a microphone that didn't work. I don't know if you saw that in the room, but my microphone was terrible. I wonder, was it set up that way on purpose? My microphone in the room, they couldn't hear me. It was going on and off.
Wow.
Which isn't exactly great. I wonder if it was set up that way, but it was terrible. That when I tested it, it was beautiful. Like an hour before, I said, "What a great mic!" But in
You
actuality,
mean for the people listening in the hall could not hear your full
it was
answers?
on and off, and it was much lower than hers.
Okay.
I don't want to believe in conspiracy theories, of course, but it was much lower than hers, and it was crackling. And she didn't have that problem. That was, to me, a bad problem because you have a bum mic. It's not exactly good.
Yeah.
You know what the
Right,
press liked? Sorry, Brian.
Yeah,
go ahead.
go ahead.
I was going to say, you know what the press liked about what you did last night? We
What?
were in the spin room, and you walked in there with your entire family, and you talked to so many people. And I understand this never happens, right? After a
I've
debate.
never seen it happen before, and you walked over to everybody, including some of your harshest critics. What went into that?
Well, not much. I went to the spin room, and it was very friendly. A lot of people thought I won. And you know what I go by? I go by those debates. They're great. The polls. When I go into a debate, I look at the polls, and I look at Drudge, who's great. He's also a great guy, by the way. But I look at the Drudge poll. I look at the Time Magazine poll. I look at Slate. I look at, there's like 7 polls. And other than CNN, which is meaningless because it's a Democratic poll, other than CNN, I won every poll easily. I won CBS. So other than that one situation, I won every poll. That to me means a lot. And you have 300,000 people voting on those polls.
That's a lot. That's right. All right. Donald Trump is actually going to stick around. We're going to take a quick commercial timeout. He's going to answer some of your questions in 2 minutes. So more live from New York City.
Send in your questions.
Before he heads to Florida, Donald Trump is stopping by our show, and he's going to take a couple of your questions, and Donald Trump is still there. And here's the question. This comes from Joanne, says, at the end of the debate, you said, quote, I could have said some terrible things about Hillary, then resisted. I'm not looking for you to be mean, but I didn't like that missed opportunity. What's your reaction?
I was talking about the many affairs that Bill Clinton had. Yeah. And because his daughter was in the room, Chelsea, who I think is a lovely young woman and actually friendly with Ivanka, they're friends, I just couldn't do it. I just didn't want to do it in front of her. I told that to Brian last night. I didn't want to do it in front of her. I thought it would have been, I didn't think it was worth the shot. I didn't think it was nice.
All right.
See? Do I have heart?
There you go. And you had mentioned that in our A block. Donald Trump, what's the deal with the sniffles? I heard you in, I think, the first answer. It sounded like you had seasonal allergies or a little cold. What's up with that?
No sniffles. No. The mic was very bad, but maybe it was good enough to hear breathing. But there was no sniffles. I don't have.
So you don't have a
no
cold?
Allergy. No cold.
Okay.
Every once in a while, but no cold.
All right, we have one more question for you. This is Choctaw Elvis 88 on Twitter asking you, I'm impressed with Mr. Trump's ability to campaign so aggressively. What does he do to maintain the pace?
Well, it's good genes. If you don't have good genes, I've seen it. I've seen guys out in the campaign trail. It's tough. You have to have a lot of energy. You have to have a lot. I was talking to Hillary about it, about her stamina. I don't believe she has stamina to be the president. She's home all the time. And, I just don't think she has the stamina to be the president.
Your staffers say you never sleep.
Because I don't sleep much. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing your show. Don't forget, I got in at 2:30 in the morning, and now I'm doing your show. And then I'm catching a plane at 8, and I'll have one of the world's fastest showers, only because of your show. Your timing was not so good.
Well, thank you very much.
But it's nice to know you're doing it without a shower.
But no, I'll take the other change. I'll do a fast shower. That's better. Right?
Donald, exit question, lightning round. What grade would you give Hillary Clinton on her debate performance last night?
I would say a C+.
What grade would you give yourself?
Well, I don't like to grade myself, but I know I did better than Hillary in every poll has shown that I did better.
And is she the best partner you ever sparred with?
I think Ted Cruz was tough. I think that Marco was actually very tough. He had a little breakdown once with somebody, but he was a good debater. Yes. Marco is a very good debater. I thought those two were very tough. And she'll be tough. I think she'll be tough. I thought she was very bad in the first half when they were asking normal questions. And when they were asking unfair questions, she got better.
Well, what grade would you give Lester Holt?
I'd give him a C, C+. I thought he was okay. I thought he was fine.
All right.
You can check the
nothing
box.
outstanding. I thought he gave me very unfair questions at the end, the last 3-4 questions, but I'm not complaining about that. I thought he was okay.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
you've got to go and take a shower. Donald Trump, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Trump.
Thank you. Thank you very
check that
much.
box now. Now we're already talking about the second debate.
All right.
My family came up, Ivanka, Melania, the whole family. And I thought that they came up like unbelievably well. They were just happy. They thought it was great.
You said that you got some hostile questions. That's the job of a moderator, is to ask hard questions. Do you feel that Lester Holt asked Hillary Clinton an equal number of hostile questions?
Well, he didn't ask her about the emails at all. He didn't ask her about her scandals. He didn't ask her about the Benghazi deal that she destroyed. He didn't ask her about a lot of things that she should have been asked about. I mean, there's no question about it.
Why do you think that is?
About her foundation. Why? I don't know. I mean, I didn't think he did a bad job, but I didn't, when you look at it, you watch the last 4 questions.
Candidates are feeling much better today because the first debate, they can check the box. It is over and done with.
Woo!
Right now, Donald Trump joins us on the phone. Good morning, Mr. Trump.
Good morning.
So how did you think it went last night?
I thought it went really well. I mean, I had some hostile questions, but that was okay. I thought it went really well. It was the debate of debates.
Who was the first person you went to after the debate and said, how do you think it went?
Well,
How you responded to that, though, because when they throw those things at you and you're being in the audience, I didn't know about that. And then when you explain it, then you're like, oh, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I explained it. But when you explain that, it's a no-win, too. Mm-hmm. But, they were leaving all of her little goodies out. They didn't ask her about, much. I was asked about my tax returns, which I've told about 500 times. So he hit me on
boom, boom.
Bertha. He hit me on a housing deal from many years ago that I settled with
1973.
with no recourse and no guilt. He asked me about that. That's a beauty to be asked. 40-year-old lawsuit or older. I just hate to say it's older because then you'll know. Then Ainsley will say, "Wow, I didn't know Trump was that old." She'll be unimpressed. But
I did like.